What do you think the 15th weapon? I don't think they'll add a 15th weapon, and I think it's just because it's too many resources. Like, it's already, like, way too resource heavy to be creating all these different weapons. It takes a lot of time to make them all work and to balance them all so that none of them are overshadowed by each other, even though that's already a problem. I'd much rather they continue to refine the 14 weapons that they add, but I guess just to make, just to answer the question, what kind of weapon would I like to see? Man, I don't know. Because when I was younger, my answer was always, well, I want a glaive weapon that can summon insects, because that was in the concept art. And then, of course, they did that. They eventually did add a glaive weapon that can summon insects. It wasn't exactly how I pictured it. Prowler was such a great idea because they already had to implement the feline weapons anyway, and they already had the feline animations. So you weren't really making anything new, and I think that worked really well. Because they didn't have to design anything new necessarily, they just had to adjust what was already prepared. I definitely don't want Tonfa or Magnet Spike. And that's not to hate on Frontier, but it's definitely for a different vibe of game. Magnet Spike and Tonfa are better for a game like Rise than they are for a game that I hope Monster Hunter 6 will be, and that's a game that's more like World or 4. You don't like weapons that invalidate every other weapon? Yeah, I think most people would like that. I think most people can agree that they don't really want Longsword to completely overshadow every other weapon. Magnet Spike is a very different kind of weapon. It definitely feels like it's meant for a completely different game. What I would like to see is weapon variation, which is a topic that has been discussed before, and it was kind of also in Frontier, the idea of there being like, oh, well, maybe you have a longsword that's a little bit longer, and the ones that are a little bit longer, maybe they have the longer reach, but maybe only like the tip of the blade gives you the full motion value, or and so if you hit with another part of the blade, like it doesn't really work. Like maybe something like that. I could see that being interesting and new and fresh. But I wouldn't want it to be exactly like Frontier, where it's like, oh, you get a weapon that's just long for the sake of being long. Because yeah, once you have any long weapon will invalidate all the other weapons, because just having more length is always good. I'd love a grounded long-range staff weapon similar to Lance, faster move. Well, yeah, well that's how I thought the Insect Glaive would have been, but it didn't end up being like that. It being more of a vaulting weapon, which is fair, but having the idea of weapon variation in the sense that they changed certain basic moves. So Rajang Greatsword has Rage Slash instead of True Charge Slash. Diablos Lance deals KO damage on advancing guard. Yeah, you see, stuff like that would be awesome. Like, I would love, like, very immersive weapon and armor variation. Like, I would love if, like, for example, the Yukimo, like, headpiece, which is, like, the big hat, if it, like, gave you, like, resistance to being, like, flashed by monsters. Because you can technically, you've got a big hat that's protecting your vision. That's what I'd love to see. I don't think Capcom wants to do that, though. And so for weapons, yeah, like, I'd love if certain weapons have different weapon-specific attacks. Because bowguns are already like that. Like, bowguns have all their variations. So it's not like this is a new concept. And I do think it would help make each and every weapon feel more unique. When right now a lot of the weapons, they only get compared in the sense of like which one does the most damage, like which is the best like thunder weapon. But I'd like it if there was like multiple thunder weapons, they would all have different other variations to them that make each and every one of them worthwhile and viable, not worthwhile.